Hello, all. Welcome again to the Legal Desire Summit 2020. This is the session for the fashion law, for the fashion lawyers, for the aspiring lawyers who are interested in this particular field. So, starting with the very basics, what fashion law is. It is also known as apparel law and is an emerging legal specialty that encompasses issues surrounding the life of a garment from conception to brand protection. Fashion law clients includes designers, fashion houses, distributors, manufacturers, modeling agencies, retailers, and photographers. And responsibilities and duties of a fashion lawyers are advising their clients on legal issues facing the fashion, textile, apparel, luxury, footwear, jewelry, cosmetic industries. They are solely responsible from licensing, merchandising, distribution, franchising agreements to intellectual properties, employment, and labor relation issues. They also include safety, sustainability, and consumer protection issues. Various aspects of corporate, real estate, tax, and business law also come into the scenario. Fashion lawyers can perform a broad range of duties from drafting, negotiation, contracts to addressing and litigating trademark, copyright, and other intellectual property issues. Anyone can study in detail about the fashion law from these universities. Fordham Law School, very much known. They provide the JD and the LLM to the students who wants to have the opportunity to study the fashion related legal issues. The Fashion Law Institute is also one of them. Then, apart from these two institutes, there are a few institutes in Milan as well as in Europe which provide 1 month, 2 months, or 6 months, very short courses in this field. The reason for the growing of the fashion law is because a lot of designers and a lot of fashion companies are encompassing the legal issues which they face in this industry, and as specifically there's nothing which is compiled together and which can be read or which can be understood by the people, and because of that, this field is very much in trend because people now want a lawyer who can assist them, be it in-house counsel, be as an independent practitioner. For example, let's say if design piracy and copycat litigation have grown in recent years, so this new legislation provides legal protection to all the fashion designers and gives importance to particular aspects of the fashion industry. So how you can break into this field is, this is for the people who are very new and who wants to get into this field. All you can do is find a suitable firm who practices in IPR, who specializes in IPR, and or who is specifically deals in the fashion law, and they can help you in getting good clients, getting interned under them, understand what are the requirements which these people requires, and in that field you can practice. This way you learn a lot of practical knowledge and you'll be able to understand what your client wants. So now I'll tell you more about three main aspects which I've come across in my day-to-day life, that mostly people have this doubt in their mind whether fashion and fashion law falls under trademark, copyright, or patent. Which option is best for any person who wants to file a suit? Under which option can they file it? So the trademark is defined as a word, phrase, symbol, or design that identifies and distinguishes the source of the goods of one party from those of others. Trademark is a massive aspect of fashion law since brand relevance, that is logos and brand names and unique recognition, is necessary and is given the competition nature of fashion. So trademark protection is important to seek and protect your fashion logos, product names, slogans used to market your fashion. Second comes the patent, which is basically a new and useful and of course non-obvious invention defined by the USPTO. That is a property right granted by the government to an inventor to exclude others from making, using, offering for sale, or selling the invention throughout the country. So, this is for a limited time in exchange for public disclosure of the invention when the patent is granted. In most cases, patents are not the main form of design protection for the fashion industry. Then comes the copyright, which is defined by the Copyright Alliance as the collection of rights that automatically vest to someone who creates an original work of authorship, like a literary work, a song, movie, or a software. So, this form of intellectual property protection is the most prominent in the fashion world since copyright protects original works of authorship fixed in the tangible medium of expression. That is, a fashion design that is unique can be copyrighted. And on the when we see it on a larger aspect of copyright law, it is that it does not protect useful things but instead protects artistic or literary things. Clothes, whether you can believe it or not, have an inherent to use, whether that be keeping you warm, dry, or something else. For this reason, the entire clothing article cannot be copyrighted. Instead, the fabric design can. So, the fabric design is especially the design on fabric that can be copyrighted, not the entire article. So, for example, imagine a famous artist collaborates with a large fashion house on a series of dresses with the artist's famous flower painting on them. Let's talk about Masaba, the very famous personality. So this artist's famous flower print on the dress can be copyrighted, but the rest of the dress cannot. So if you talk about Masaba's design, the other prints which are present on the Masaba's design can be, of course, copyrighted by her, but not the design, the outfit, the design of the outfit. So let's talk about the knockoff versus counterfeits. This is another term which is very common in the industry and which is mostly, misunderstood because it is a very slim line which happens in it. So, Merriam-Webster defined knockoff as a copy that sells for less than the original, and whereas counterfeiting is defined as made in imitation of something else with inherent to deceive. To better understand, I'll tell you in detail that think of back streets vendors who try to sell on city streets. They frequently have the branding of a famous company, let's say Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and at times Dior, which can be legitimate or illegal as well as counterfeit. Knockoffs are simply items, garments in this case, that are inspired by or resemble the original, but they are not, and instead they are trading off the original fashion designer and thus can result in counterfeiting claims or claims of copyright or trademark infringement. Counterfeits are or should be illegal, but knockoffs may or may not be and are actually viewed as a positive aspect of fashion or building of other side. So they basically allow the creator to be inspired by the others and subsequently create their own version of another work, which can lead to new trends also. And to best fight this kind of fight, the smaller designers should have her designs federally registered and have a knowledgeable attorney at the ready to send cease and desist letters or file infringement lawsuits. So this is the situation where a person should not wait for another move and should directly, file a case so that strict action can be taken at the time. So let's come over the topic registering fashion designs. I'll talk about the few case laws as well as the few sections which can be used under the Indian laws in order to protect your rights. So before that, let's talk about how to register fashion designs. So protecting fashion designs can be very challenging. First rule is that patent protection for the general reasons should be kept out. And after studying about copyright, patent and trademark, this must be clear with all of you that copyright and trademark are both the terms which are very essential to the fashion industry. Keeping aside the patent, let's talk about first copyright registration. This can be done in three parts. Actually, this is the process takes place in three steps. First is filing the application, then depositing copies of your work, and paying the final fee at the standard rate defined by the government. Once these steps have been done correctly, the Copyright Office shall receive the material and the work which you have assigned to them for the registration. It shall take around 1 to 3 months. Yeah, around approx 90 days it takes, and then the final step goes ahead. The trademark registration of your fashion logos and product names is a little more complex with the process because it has 5 steps which are supposed to be followed. And since the steps are a little in detail, so I'll just give you a very one-line sentence. That is, first step is selecting a good mark that has a good chance of being registered. You have to make sure that while selecting a logo for your company, for your business, the logo should not resemble to any renowned brands in the world, because this will increase the chances of getting your logo rejected. Then second step is preparing and submitting the application. So why you need to go through the each column very thoroughly so that you don't miss out any particular step, and submit the application by going twice or thrice to it again and again, so that nothing is left out and all the information which you are filling is correctly filled. Then third step is preparing and submitting the specimen. That is a sample of how your company is using the mark in the commerce. So this is very important. You need to prepare a few samples for your company. Let's say if you are opening a company of bags. So you need to keep your few specimens ready, the bags with the logo imprinted on it, so that when you are required to send it for the approval to any government organization, you have it in your hand and you don't have to wait for getting it approved by a company team, then sending it for the manufacturing, then waiting for it, because this might take a lot of time and you might run out of your deadline. So the fourth step is working with the USPTO examining authority, which includes responding to the office action letters that may require your input to the application. Then the fifth step is waiting for the final approval. As said, after you complete the 4 steps successfully, all you have to do is just sit back, relax, and wait for the final result of your application. If everything goes well, you will get your approval letter. And if in case there's something which is missed out, you will again have to go and complete the step at which your application was not approved. So this is how you can get it all done. So now I wanted to talk about the provisions regarding the protection under Indian laws. So there are several statutes such as the Trademarks Act 1999, the Patents Act 1970, the Copyright Act 1957, and at times even in the Indian Penal Code there are few reliefs which are given, which can be provided and which can be used. So the first is cheating. In case of cheating, section 415 defines as well as section 420 of IPC deals with the punishment of imprisonment, which can be executed up to 7 years. Then comes the forgery. When a person forges a document and creates an impression to the general public claiming that the trademark is owned by him, then section 463, section 464 and section 468 of IPC can be used in order to deal with the forgery. Then comes the criminal conspiracy. When 2 or more persons help in distributing or selling the counterfeiting products, it leads to criminal conspiracy under section 120A and B of Indian Penal Code. Then comes the counterfeiting of property mark under section 481, 482, 483, 485, 486, 487 and 488 of the IPC. A person who is selling the counterfeiting property mark shall be charged. Then comes the final sections of the IPC that deals with the procedure of recordal of complaint and investigation. Section 100, Section 160, Section 161, Section 162, 165, 167, 169, Section 170, 172, 173. These are the sections for the CRPC, not the IPC. I am sorry. So there are a few cases of the patent and trademark IP laws which interrupt to protect the public interest and balances against the IPR holders' interest. So few judgments which are related to brand protection, that is Milmet Opto Industries and others versus Allergan Inc. Corporation. In this case, the Indian company has used the symbol Ocuflox, and the court held that the company has used the symbol which was not prevailing in the Indian markets yet. Therefore, its presence is relevant. Then there is one more, case which was a landmark judgment, and it was of cyber squatting, as it was held by the Delhi High Court that the original brand which served as trademark can be entitled to equal protection, and debate has been going on regarding the protection of intellectual property rights, whether it is against the natural course of knowledge leading to a progressive society. Even in the cases of patent and trademark, IP laws interrupt to protect the public interest. Then comes the case Glenmark versus Galfa. In this case, the court awarded an exemplary cost of rupees 1.5 crores to Galfa for who have infringed various brands of Glenmark. Then H&M, Hens and Maruti, Abe and Enas versus HM Mega Brands Private Limited and others was another case. In this, the Delhi High Court had granted a permanent injunction in favor of the plaintiff, that is Hens and Maruti, which secures the right of the foreign company in the trademark against the Indian company. Then we have Arun Chopra versus Kaka Ka Dhaba Private Limited and others. Here the court has secured the rights of Kaka Ka Dhaba in their names and trademark against the infringer. So there are several more cases with respect to the brand protection, and all these cases can be accessible through different modes. Now I would like to discuss a little bit about the supply chain and other commercial issues which fashion industry faces. So a supply chain consists of all parties who are involved directly or indirectly in fulfilling a customer request. The supply chain includes not only the manufacturers and suppliers, but also transporters, warehouses, retailers, and even customers themselves. Each stage in a supply chain is connected through the flow of products, information, and fund. So, when you talk about the exports from India, the advent of small traders over the internet, such as through Amazon, eBay, and Myntra and other Alibaba, have largely bypassed the involvement of customs in many countries due to the low individual value of these trades. And according to the survey, the textile and apparel industry contributes 2.3% to India's GDP and accounts for 13% of industrial production and 12% of the country's export earnings. Talking about imports to India, the government of India has increased basic custom duties on several textiles and apparel production, including fiber, carpets, knitwears, hosiery items, certain types of vegetable textile fibers, and some varieties of fabric. Again, duties have been increased by up to 20% on these goods, and the increased duties have come into effect from Monday, that is July 16, 2018. So a lot of topics are there under this particular heading, that is freight forwarding, transportation service providers, supply chain overview, what is about warehousing, the franchisee rule and its disclosure requirements, All these topics are covered under the supply chain. So I am not going to discuss about everything in detail here, because else I'll be taking a lot of time of the other speakers. So Legal Desire is coming up with its own course on fashion law, and they'll be launching it in the first week of January 2021. So for more details, you have to be logged into our website, and you can easily enroll yourself and study about it. So supply chain also considers about the consignment, the corporate social responsibility, distributors versus dealers, and Food and Drug Association also is included in it. So a lot of topics are there. Now let's talk about little bit about the advertising and marketing in this industry. So advertising and promotion of the brand is very important again for the fashion industry, and these things are usually done to attract the public at large. Famous celebrities or bloggers these days, the YouTube people, the Instagrams, bloggers are used for promoting their brands, and they are basically selected on their popularity so that the brand becomes more popular among the customers. From the high street fashion to the low street fashion, advertising and promotion of these brands are done by the retailers of these brands to increase market share and even brand awareness by applying some methods such as search engine optimization, gift cards, sweepstakes, contests, discounts, giveaways, etc. So of course there's an intense competition in the fashion industry about advertising and promoting brands. And so I've already spoken about celebrity endorsement agreement, which is very important. Direct marketing, Department of Consumer Affairs in India, labeling title for consumer goods, then green marketing in India, made in India, native advertising, online advertising and marketing. So advertising products of the brands on different online platforms help any brand in a very deeper way, because through these advertisements on various platforms, customers become aware of the latest products in the market. Then online advertising also engages more and more crowd on sites, which becomes a medium to grow their sales. Through online marketing, customers have a direct connection with the customers. Through online marketing, marketers come to know about what customer want, what marketers can provide them, what are the strategies which can be followed by them. Then the sales promotion. So all these headings are covered into advertising and promotions. Then I'll just give you a very brief about the labor laws which are related to the fashion industries. So there have been a lot of incidents which have not been covered at times uh, in favor of the laborers. That I'll just speak about the provisions basically of the fashion labor law, the labor laws which are related to the fashion industry in India. Benefits packages are available for 3 years. The focus on employee generation in sector is there. Improvement is needed in state levies refund. And PV benefits under A-TUFs can help in increasing the revenue. Increasing overtime can be result in an increase in production as well as the earning of the laborers. Then there are various measures that has been taken to slow the global consumption and structural inefficiencies for the new challenges. That is fixed term employees, that the sectors are hiring contractual workers where the workers are allotted a fixed time. Then, and it is also covered under the Factories Act 1948, that the overtime is up to 4 hours per day, which will provide pliability in the increase of the production and no workers and earnings of the laborers. Then Employment Provident Fund, it is available for those employees who can earn less than rupees 1500 per month. They're not only benefited with extra money, but also the government will bear 12% of the employees' contribution in EPF scheme. Under again A-TUFs, 15%, 25% subsidies are also given in this sector. Then scope of section 80JJAA of Income Tax Act, which cannot be forgotten, is that after this amendment of the Act, the employees' working days has been reduced from 240 to 150 days for the purpose of claiming deduction benefits. Then the sharing of the EPF burden. Again, the employees' expenses has been reduced up to 3.7%, which will encourage the employers and employees to go for the scheme. Then is the, then for the protection of the laborers in India, there are few acts. I won't talk in detail. I can just name that the Industrial Dispute Act 1947, which constitutes a committee where the relations between the employer and the workman is secured and preserved. It also allows the appointment of conciliation officers, labor courts, court of inquiry, arbitration, and others to resolve the dispute for a peaceful environment. Then comes the Trade Union Acts. It's give the protection to the registration of trade union in India. Then the Minimum Wages Act 1948. It allows to fix a minimum rate of wage during the employment. Then Payment of Wages Act 1936, Payment of Bonus Act 1965 for the allows the payment of bonus to those persons who are employed in industries where there are 20 or more persons employed. Then Employees Provident Funds and Miscellaneous Provisions Act, Labor Welfare Funds Act, Payment of Gratuity Act, Factories Act, Industrial Employment Act 1946, Contract Laborers Act, the Employees Compensation Act, Interstate Migrant Women Act, Bonded Labor System Act 1976, Maternity Benefit Act, Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act, Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act, Equal Remuneration Act. So a lot of acts are there in Indian constitution, and which once read thoroughly can help a lot of workers to avail their rights. Then we have the cases related to the labor laws in fashion industries. One case is MC Mehta versus State of Tamil Nadu. It was cited in 1996, and the name of the court was the Supreme Court of India. So in this case, an activist lawyer filed a petition before the court professing that the fundamental rights of the children mentioned in Article 24 of the Indian Constitution is being violated. And the Honorable Supreme Court of India held that child labor in India is a big problem and gave several directions for eliminating child labor. Then there was a case Bata Shoes versus Ganguly and others. So in this session, 15th December 1960, it was held in the Industrial Tribunal, Bihar and Patna, and the Honorable Justice Gajanendra Ghankar and the Honorable Justice K.N. Vanshu had cited the case. So a lot of cases are also there with respect to labor laws. Then real estate is also very important in fashion law because while you make an agreement in renting out any property or giving any franchisee outlet, the tenants clauses are there, co-tenancy clauses are there. So there are a lot of things which are need to be taken care of. So pro-landlord long forms are there, pro-landlord short forms are there. So I'll just give you a short summary that a long form agreement is for a retail lease in a shopping center favoring the landlord, while retail leases are generally governed by the state and local laws. Then short form of pro-lord, they are in the favoring of the landlord. And neutral template in the jurisdiction are used for small shopping centers or strip malls. Then international perspective of retail law is also there. A lot of small laws are related with fashion law, and which once compiled can help any person who's facing these problems to access their rights. Then again, there's privacy and data security. So these are the topics which cannot be covered in this very short session since I was given just 30 minutes. But I've tried to cover majority of it, and I'm still trying. So I think need 5-10 minutes more. So India, if you talk about privacy and data security in India, also we can talk about GDPR or the Data Protection Direction. So India has not yet, enacted a specific legislation on data protection, though it did in GDPR, which was enacted last year only. So cyber attacks prevention and proactive responses. So some ways are there which can be used to prevent cyber attacks. Train employees in cybersecurity principles. Install, use, and regularly update antivirus and anti spyware software on every computer and used in your business. Use a firewall for your internet connection. Download and install software updates for your operating systems and applications as they become available. Make backup copies for important business data and information. Then, of course, secure your Wi-Fi networks. That is very important. And limit employees' access to data and information. Also, regularly change your passwords. Make a habit of changing your passwords every week or every 15 days. So I have prepared few checklists for a situation where if you want to start any e-commerce retail site. So quickly, I'll just go with it. One is start with your business name. Find a business name which is unique and which is not in already use. Then second, secure your domain name and website. And choose the best business structure and register your business. That is, what type of business do you want? Does it has to be sole proprietor, partnership, LLC, or corporation? Then get your employees identification number. Apply for business licenses and permits. Find the right vendor. Start makeup marketing early. More productive with the right software. Stock your inventory. And the last is make sure your business says compliant. So don't overlook filing your annual report, even incorporated or filed an LLC, or those for annual fees for business permits. So this was all about the fashion law in very brief as well as detail. I tried to cover, but this was not possible to cover in such a short span. Anyways, since I mentioned it earlier, Legal Desire is coming up with this own fashion law course where they are compiling all these important structures in under one shelf, and you'll be able to procure your copy from a website. And hopefully we'll be launching it in the first week of the 2021 with a good hope, and hoping all of you to go through that and give your reviews. Thank you so much. Thank you.